The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, each one flickering like a distant memory. In the cold silence of space, a sleek silver vessel drifted slowly, cutting through the void with a quiet hum. It was unlike anything the universe had ever seen before, built with precision and intelligence far beyond anything humans could imagine. Inside, the crew moved with purpose, their large, almond-shaped eyes reflecting the soft glow of the control panels. They were not human, though their curiosity was strangely familiar. For centuries, they had explored countless galaxies, charting worlds, observing civilizations, and cataloging life forms. Yet today, something felt different. Their instruments beeped suddenly, a sharp contrast to the usual calm. The ship's sensors had detected something unusual, a faint, rhythmic signal coming from a planet that shouldn't have shown any signs of life. The planet was small, tucked away in a corner of the galaxy where no other intelligent species had been known to exist. The crew gathered around the main viewing screen, their eyes scanning the data. "It's sending signals," one of them said in a voice soft and melodic, yet carrying weight. "Signals. Like someone is trying to communicate." The captain nodded slowly, a mixture of caution and excitement in their expression. "Prepare the landing crew. We need to see what is down there." The crew moved quickly, but carefully. Their species valued observation and patience. They did not rush into unknown situations. And yet, even with all their experience, there was a sense of anticipation, an unfamiliar thrill at what they might find out as the vessel descended through the planet's atmosphere. The view changed from the black void of space to something almost Earth-like. Rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with forests of tall, green trees that swayed gently in the wind. Rivers snaked through the landscape, shimmering in the sunlight. The crew marveled at the beauty, noting the planet's fertile land and breathable atmosphere. "It's habitable," one whispered, awe in their voice. "More than that, it looks lived in." And then they saw it. In the distance, beyond a range of hills, were structures. They were simple, built from stone and wood, but clearly designed to house intelligent beings. Villages dotted the landscape, connected by paths that had been worn into the earth over centuries. Smoke rose from small chimneys, and tiny figures moved among the buildings. The crew fell silent, absorbing what they saw. Humans of a kind they had never encountered were living here, completely isolated from the rest of the galaxy. The landing was cautious but smooth. The crew's boots pressed into the soft soil, sending up small clouds of dust. They were careful not to scare the humans. After centuries of exploration, the crew had learned the importance of patience and subtlety when interacting with a new species. They activated their translators, hoping to bridge the language gap. The humans noticed them almost immediately. At first, there was fear. The humans froze, staring at the tall, alien visitors with wide eyes. Their expressions were a mix of curiosity and suspicion. They were primitive in terms of technology, wearing clothes made from natural fibers and carrying simple tools. Their villages were small and organized, and their daily routines were tied to the sun, the soil, and the seasons. But despite their simplicity, there was intelligence in their eyes. A spark that told the crew these humans were more than just survivors. They were thinkers, learners, and dreamers. Not one human, braver than the rest, stepped forward. They held a staff and wore a cloak made from woven fibers. The human's gaze was steady, unflinching, even as they looked at beings who were clearly far beyond their understanding. Slowly, the aliens activated their translator. Words, though strange and broken, began to form. The humans understood enough to communicate basic ideas, and a dialogue began, cautious but real. The crew learned that these humans had no memory of Earth as it existed today. Their ancestors had arrived here long ago, stranded on this distant planet by circumstances no one could fully explain. Generations had passed, and the humans had built a life from what the planet offered. They had grown food, raised children, and created a society based on trust, cooperation, and respect for nature. But they had never advanced beyond simple technology because they had no external guidance. No ships, no satellites, no libraries of knowledge from the outside world. They had learned only from the land, the rivers, the skies, and each other dot. As the aliens explored the villages, they noticed something remarkable. The humans had developed art, music, and storytelling in ways that were deeply emotional and complex. Murals adorned walls, depicting stories of ancestors, animals, and celestial events. Songs were sung at dawn and dusk, telling tales of courage, love, and survival. There was a rhythm to their lives, a balance between work and rest, labor and celebration. Every action, no matter how small, carried meaning. The aliens could feel it, the humans' connection to each other and the world around them. One of the crew moved quietly through a garden where humans were tending to crops. They watched as a young human gently placed seeds into the soil, covering them carefully with dirt, whispering something that sounded like a blessing. The alien felt something unfamiliar, an almost human sense of reverence for life. They realized that these humans, though isolated, had preserved something precious, the essence of humanity itself. But there were questions. How had they survived? How had they preserved knowledge across generations without contact with Earth? Why had no other humans come here? And why had these ones not sought out the stars themselves? The crew began to investigate further, examining tools, artifacts, and writings. They discovered simple machines, clever solutions to everyday problems, and records of births, deaths, and seasons. Each object told a story. Each mark on a wall or tool was evidence of creativity and intelligence. Despite the humans' simple lives, the aliens sensed resilience, something that could not be measured in technology or power. These humans had faced generations of challenges, from storms and disease to hunger and loss, yet they had endured. They had adapted to the land, learned its secrets, and passed their knowledge forward. And yet, something felt incomplete. There was a mystery here, a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. The aliens could feel it in the way the humans looked at the sky, in the stories they told at night by firelight. They were waiting for something, though no one could say what. The night fell, and the stars came out, brighter here than they had appeared from the ship. The humans gathered around fires in small groups, talking, singing, sharing stories of their lives and ancestors. The aliens observed quietly, fascinated by the depth of emotion and connection. Here was a world untouched by modern civilization, yet full of life, meaning, and history. The contrast with their own sterile, precise existence on the ship was stark. They realized that intelligence and life were not only measured by machines or technology, but by the ability to feel, to connect, and to endure. By the end of the first day, the crew gathered again in the village square. They had seen enough to know that this was extraordinary. Here was a human colony that had survived, evolved, and thrived completely alone, untouched by the outside universe. And yet, there was a sense of anticipation, as if the humans themselves knew that their story was not finished. The aliens did not speak, but each felt it, the promise of discovery, the thrill of the unknown, and the quiet power of life that had endured against all odds. As the crew prepared to return to the ship, one of them lingered behind, watching the humans in the dim firelight. They wondered about the paths that had led these humans here, about the choices their ancestors had made, and about the hidden history waiting to be revealed. This first encounter was only the beginning, a doorway into a story that neither the humans nor the aliens could fully predict. The stars above twinkled silently, and in the darkness, both species understood that something extraordinary had begun. The next morning, the alien crew returned to the human village, their curiosity stronger than ever. The sun rose slowly, casting a golden glow over the hills and the small, simple homes. Smoke curled from chimneys, birds chirped in the trees, and the humans were already beginning their day, moving with quiet purpose. Some were gathering water from the nearby river, while others tended to gardens or prepared simple meals. There was a rhythm to their lives, calm yet focused, a balance that seemed almost sacred. The aliens observed from a distance at first, careful not to intrude. They had learned that patience was essential when dealing with a new species. Any sudden movement or display of power could frighten the humans and make meaningful contact impossible. But these humans were not easily scared. Their eyes were sharp, their movements confident. Even as the aliens approached, the humans remained watchful but calm. One of the crew, the translator specialist, stepped forward. The device they carried was small and sleek, designed to pick up subtle patterns in speech, gestures, and emotion. Slowly it began to interpret the humans' language, translating it into something the aliens could understand. At first, communication was limited to simple phrases, greetings, questions about food, shelter, and the weather, but even this small bridge allowed the humans to relax slightly. A group of villagers, curious but cautious, gathered near the alien visitors. They formed a loose circle, whispering to each other, their expressions a mix of fear and curiosity. The aliens noticed that these humans had a clear social structure, with elders guiding the younger members, and individuals respected for their skill in hunting, farming, or crafting. It was a community that had learned to survive and thrive together, relying on trust, cooperation, and shared knowledge. The translator began to work more effectively as the day progressed. The humans were eager to share what they knew, and their stories flowed slowly but steadily. They spoke of their ancestors, who had arrived on this distant planet many generations ago. The journey was long forgotten in detail, but the humans remembered that they had come from a distant world, guided by hope and the need for survival. Their memories were fragmented, passed down through stories, songs, and murals, but the essence remained clear. They belonged to a lost human lineage. The aliens were fascinated. These humans had adapted to a new world without modern tools, technology, or contact with Earth. They had built homes, cultivated crops, and learned to use the planet's resources wisely. Their society was simple, yet sophisticated in its own way. Everyone had a role, and knowledge was shared freely among those who could benefit from it. There was no greed, no competition for power, only a focus on survival, growth, and the well-being of the community. As the day continued, the aliens began to notice subtle differences in these humans compared to the humans they had studied in history databases. Their bodies were slightly taller, their skin tones slightly different, and their eyes carried a depth of curiosity and caution. But their emotions, their laughter, their fear, and their joy were unmistakably human. The crew realized that these humans were a living experiment in resilience, shaped by isolation, environment, and necessity. In the afternoon, one of the elders invited the aliens to follow them to a communal gathering place. It was a simple open area in the center of the village, where fires could be lit and stories told. The humans had gathered there for centuries, to share knowledge, teach children, and celebrate life's small victories. That tradition had continued even in isolation, and it now served as a bridge between two very different species. The aliens observed quietly as the humans began a storytelling ritual. One elder spoke, recounting the journey of their ancestors. From a distant world, the hardships they faced, the struggles to grow food, and the lessons learned from nature. The story was filled with emotion, with pauses for the young to ask questions and the old to add wisdom. The aliens were captivated. These were not just tales. They were lessons, history, philosophy, and culture all intertwined. One of the younger Humans began to play a stringed instrument, creating music that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the planet itself. The melody was simple, yet profound, filling the air with warmth and a sense of belonging. The aliens felt something unfamiliar stirring inside them, a connection, almost like empathy, that transcended language, biology, and species. They realized that these humans had preserved not just their bodies, but their humanity. During a break in the storytelling, the aliens tried to ask questions about their technology, or rather, the lack of it. The humans laughed softly, shaking their heads. They had few machines and almost no advanced tools. Instead, they relied on skill, observation, and cooperation. They spoke of simple innovations, ways to store food, to purify water, to hunt more efficiently, to build sturdier shelters. None of it was flashy or impressive to a technologically advanced species, but it was effective and ingenious. One alien took a small notebook and began sketching what they saw. They wanted to record the details of the humans' lives, not just for science, but for understanding. Every detail mattered. The design of their homes, the methods of planting seeds, the ways they taught children, the expressions they used to communicate. It was all a testament to human adaptability and intelligence. As evening approached, the humans invited the aliens to join a communal meal. It was a simple feast of fruits, grains, and roasted meat from local animals, shared among everyone without hierarchy or pretense. The aliens hesitated at first, unsure of how to eat, but were gently guided by the humans. Eating together became a quiet ritual of trust. For the first time, the aliens felt a part of the community, even if only temporarily. They realized that connection was not just about language or technology. It was about shared experience, mutual respect, and empathy. That night, the aliens and humans sat around a fire, the sky above filled with stars, brighter than anything the crew had ever seen. The humans spoke of their dreams, to explore, to understand the world beyond their hills, to find answers to questions they had carried for generations. Though they had no ships or advanced technology, their curiosity matched that of the aliens themselves. It was a quiet but powerful reminder that intelligence and wonder were universal. The aliens knew they had stumbled upon something extraordinary. These humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, dreamers, and keepers of stories that stretched across centuries. They had preserved knowledge, wisdom, and emotion without the aid of machines or libraries. They had built a society that balanced survival with meaning, work with creativity, and caution with curiosity. In every gesture, every smile, every shared story, the aliens saw the essence of humanity itself. As the night deepened, the aliens retreated to their temporary quarters, their minds racing with questions. How had these humans preserved their knowledge so carefully? How had they survived isolation for so long? Were they truly alone, or had there been visitors in the past? And most importantly, what could the aliens learn from them, not just as scientists or explorers, but as beings? Trying to understand life itself? The first contact had been cautious and careful, but now a fragile trust had formed. The humans were no longer simply observed. They were engaged, curious, and willing to share. And the aliens, for the first time in their long history of exploration, felt a connection that went beyond curiosity or duty. It was respect, admiration, and a deep recognition of something profoundly human. Before dawn, the aliens gathered on a small hill overlooking the village. They watched as the humans slept peacefully in their homes, fires burning low, the stars reflected in quiet streams and ponds. There was beauty here that could not be measured. In data, no technology to capture the depth of emotion and history. It was raw, simple, and powerful. And the aliens knew that this first day of contact was only the beginning. Tomorrow, they would learn more. They would ask more questions, explore more villages, and uncover the secrets of this lost human colony. But tonight, they allowed themselves to simply watch, listen, and feel. There was wonder in every flicker of firelight, in every whisper of wind through the trees, in every heartbeat of the humans who had survived against impossible odds. Somewhere deep inside, the aliens realized something extraordinary. This was not just a mission of observation. It was a journey into the heart of life itself, a story of survival, connection, and resilience that transcended species. In meeting these humans, they were discovering not only a lost colony, but a lost understanding of what it truly meant to be alive. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the hills, casting a soft golden light across the human village. Birds sang from the trees, and the gentle rustling of leaves blended with the sound of flowing streams. The aliens watched quietly from a small clearing, taking in the rhythm of life below. The humans moved through their routines, with calm determination fetching water, tending crops, repairing tools, and caring for children. Every action seemed purposeful, yet there was also a sense of freedom, of living fully within the moment. The crew decided it was time to explore further, to venture beyond the main village and see how far the colony stretched. They moved with caution, careful not to disturb the humans' daily lives. The humans, in turn, observed the aliens with curiosity, their eyes bright and alert. There was no fear now, only cautious intrigue. It was as if both sides were learning to understand each other, step by careful step out, as they moved across the landscape. The aliens noticed the incredible ingenuity of the human survival strategies. Fields were arranged in patterns that maximized sunlight and rainfall. Small terraces were carved into hillsides to prevent erosion, and natural barriers protected crops from wild animals. The aliens had seen advanced engineering in other worlds, but here was something different: practical intelligence born of necessity, careful observation, and generations of trial and error. Every small invention, every clever adjustment, told a story of resilience. One alien paused near a simple irrigation channel, watching a group of humans guide water to their fields. They noticed the precision and care in the humans' movements. Each plant received exactly the right amount of water, and none was wasted. It was a lesson in patience and attention to detail, qualities often lost in more technologically advanced societies. The alien made careful notes, realizing that even in a world without machines, intelligence could thrive in extraordinary ways. As the group continued, they came across a workshop built from stone and wood. Tools hung from walls, arranged neatly according to size and function. Simple machines, levers, and pulleys were used to lift heavy objects and perform repetitive tasks efficiently. The humans here worked quietly, repairing tools, sharpening blades, and crafting new items from raw materials. Their focus and skill were impressive. The aliens realized that knowledge had been carefully passed down, from elder to child, generation to generation, preserving practical skills that had allowed the colony to survive for centuries. The aliens were especially drawn to a small library-like structure at the center of the village. It was not a library in the traditional sense. There were no printed books or digital records. Instead, stories, knowledge, and history were recorded on stone tablets, carved carefully with symbols and images. These tablets contained everything: the history of the colony, stories of ancestors, lessons learned from past mistakes, and instructions for surviving in this strange land. Each tablet was treated with respect, and only the elders were allowed to teach its lessons. The aliens approached the elder in charge of the tablets, who welcomed them with a slow nod. The translator activated, allowing a basic conversation to begin. The humans spoke of the importance of memory and storytelling, of keeping the past alive to guide the future. They explained that even without advanced technology, knowledge could survive if it was valued, shared, and preserved with care. The aliens listened intently, fascinated by the depth of wisdom contained in such simple forms. As they explored further, the aliens discovered evidence of rituals and traditions that connected the humans to the land. There were sacred groves where trees were left untouched, streams that were cleaned and honored, and small shrines built to mark important events or express gratitude. The humans believed that every part of the land had spirit and purpose, and that respect for nature was essential for survival. The aliens were struck by the harmony between the humans and their environment, a balance that their own species often struggled to maintain despite advanced technology. In the afternoon, the aliens noticed a group of humans working together to construct a new building. It was simple, but built with care and precision. Stones were laid with attention to stability. Wood was carved to fit perfectly, and the entire structure grew steadily under skilled hands. The aliens observed the cooperation, noting the silent communication between the humans. There were no arguments, no displays of ego, only a shared focus on completing a task that would benefit the entire community. It was a lesson in collaboration that went beyond words, and the aliens realized that human intelligence was as much social as it was technical. Later, they visited a small hill overlooking the colony. From this vantage point, the aliens could see the full extent of the settlement fields. Homes, workshops, and communal spaces spread across the landscape like a carefully tended tapestry. Children played near the river, laughing and chasing each other. Adults worked or walked thoughtfully through the village. The aliens felt a sense of awe at the scale of human ingenuity and the care with which this isolated colony had been maintained. It was a hidden world that had survived against all odds, completely self-sufficient and yet deeply connected through community. As the sun began to set, the humans invited the aliens to join a ceremony. A fire was lit at the center of the village, and humans gathered around in a circle. Elders spoke softly, recounting the history of the colony and the struggles their ancestors had faced. They sang songs and performed dances that celebrated the seasons, the land, and the unity of the community. The aliens watched in silence, moved by the beauty and significance of these rituals. It was more than celebration. It was a living record of human perseverance, creativity, and emotional depth. During the ceremony, the aliens noticed something unusual. Hidden among the carvings and songs were subtle references to a distant world, a place the humans had never seen but remembered through stories. The details were vague, fragmented, and mysterious, yet they suggested that the colony had preserved knowledge far beyond what the aliens had expected. It was as if the humans had retained memories of a world they had never actually known, passed down through generations in symbolic form. The aliens exchanged glances, realizing that there was more to these humans than met the eye. After the ceremony, the aliens spoke quietly among themselves. They wondered about the origins of this knowledge and the events that had led the colony to its isolation. The humans had survived, adapted, and evolved, yet they carried hints of something far larger, something that connected them to a story beyond their own world. The aliens felt a growing sense of urgency. They needed to understand not only how these humans had lived, but why, and what secrets had been preserved over centuries. That night, the aliens returned to their temporary quarters, reflecting on what they had learned. They were amazed not just by the human survival skills, but by their emotional intelligence, creativity, and wisdom. These were qualities that could not be measured by technology or power. They realized that this lost human colony represented a rare and precious understanding of life itself, an understanding that had been shaped by hardship, connection, and careful observation of the world. As they looked out at the village from their ship, the aliens knew that the next phase of their exploration would require patience, empathy, and trust. They could not simply record data or take samples. They needed to understand the humans on their own terms, to engage with their stories, rituals, and traditions. Every action, every gesture, Every moment of interaction mattered. This was not just a scientific mission. It was a journey into the heart of what it meant to be human. Even in the quiet darkness, the aliens felt a strange connection to the humans. Their songs and stories lingered in the air, and their laughter echoed across the hills. The aliens had seen many civilizations, many ways of living, but nothing had prepared them for this. Here was a community that had survived centuries of isolation, preserved its knowledge and culture, and maintained a deep, emotional connection to the land and each other. As the stars sparkled overhead, the aliens realized that this lost human colony was not just a mystery to solve. It was a living lesson in resilience, creativity, and the enduring power of human spirit. And as they drifted off to sleep, the first hints of questions and discoveries began to form in their minds. Who had brought these humans here? How had they preserved knowledge across generations? And what secrets lay hidden, waiting to be uncovered in the days to come? The first contact had led to understanding, and understanding had led to curiosity. Tomorrow would bring more exploration, more questions, and perhaps the first steps toward uncovering a secret that had been buried for centuries. The aliens were ready, and the humans, unknowingly, had become part of a story that would stretch far beyond their hills, their fields, and their simple homes. The following morning, the sky over the village was painted in soft shades of pink and orange, the sun rising slowly over the distant hills. A gentle breeze carried the scent of soil and greenery through the village, and the humans began their day with quiet, purposeful motion. The aliens watched from a small clearing at the edge of the village, their curiosity stronger than ever. Today, they would dig deeper, explore further, and try to understand the secrets this isolated colony held. The crew decided to split into small teams to cover more ground. One group followed the humans to the river, where they fished and collected water. Another group moved toward the surrounding hills, exploring caves and hidden valleys that seemed to hold clues to the colony's past. The aliens were careful, observing without disturbing, taking notes on every detail, the way humans interacted with each other, the tools they used, the methods of work and play. As they examined a small cave near the edge of the village, one of the aliens noticed something unusual carved into the rock walls. At first, it seemed like simple drawings, animals, people, trees, but upon closer inspection, there were patterns, sequences, and symbols that did not match anything the aliens had seen before. They realized these were records of events, not just decorations. Some depicted journeys across vast distances, battles with disease or wild animals, and moments of great loss or celebration. It was a history written in images, a story of survival that stretched across centuries. The aliens were drawn deeper into the cave, discovering more carvings and etched tablets carefully stored along ledges. Some of the humans had clearly taken care to preserve these records, covering them with leaves or stones to protect them from the elements. The aliens began to realize that this colony was not merely surviving, it had been documenting its entire existence. Every hardship, every discovery, every lesson learned had been recorded, creating a map of human resilience. Back in the village, another alien team was observing the elders as they taught children about the world. The lessons were simple on the surface: how to plant crops, track animals, and read the stars, but layered with wisdom about patience, respect, and understanding. The aliens were fascinated by how knowledge had been passed down without books, screens, or machines. Instead, it was stored in memory, in ritual, in storytelling, and in careful observation. The humans had developed a system that ensured survival, understanding, and connection without relying on technology. It was during this time that the crew made their most shocking discovery. In the central hall of one of the oldest buildings, they found an artifact unlike anything else in the colony. It was a small metallic device, partially buried beneath dust and stone. Its design was strange, with lights that flickered faintly and engravings that seemed to glow under the alien scanners. The humans did not understand it. They had never seen anything like it before, but the device seemed to hold information. Images, or perhaps even recordings of some kind. The aliens carefully activated their equipment, analyzing the device without touching it directly. What they uncovered sent a ripple of astonishment through the crew. The device contained records of Earth-modern cities, technology, and events that these humans could not have experienced firsthand. It was as if someone or something had given the colony knowledge far beyond what they could have learned on their own. The implications were staggering. How could a colony that had been isolated for generations possess accurate knowledge of a world they had never seen? The crew shared the discovery with the elders of the colony, trying to convey the importance of the artifact. The humans were confused, but intrigued. They had long felt that their knowledge was incomplete, that there were truths about their origins and the wider universe that had been lost. This device seemed to confirm their suspicions. It hinted at a connection to another world, a past they could not fully remember, and perhaps even guidance from an outside force. As the day progressed, the aliens and humans examined the device together. They discovered detailed images of cities with towering buildings, sprawling roads, and machines that moved without animals or human effort. There were records of events that had shaped Earth weather disasters, inventions, and societal changes. The humans were amazed, staring at images that mirrored stories passed down through generations, but with clarity and detail they had never imagined. The more they explored, the stranger it became. The device contained patterns, symbols, and data that suggested intentional guidance. It was not simply a record. It seemed to have been designed to teach, to preserve, and perhaps even to influence. The aliens realized that someone or something had been watching this colony, providing information across generations to ensure that knowledge was preserved. It was a revelation that challenged everything they thought they knew about intelligence. History and fate. By the evening, the aliens gathered on a hill overlooking the village, the humans resting and working quietly below. They discussed what they had learned, their voices low and urgent. The discovery of the device had opened questions that had no easy answers. Who had placed the device here? Why had it been left for humans to find only after generations? And what did it mean for the future of this colony, or even for humanity as a whole? The humans, unaware of the full extent of the aliens' discussion, returned to their evening routines. Fires were lit, meals were shared, and stories were told to children who listened with wide eyes. The presence of the device sparked new curiosity among the humans. For the first time, they questioned not just their past, but their place in the universe. Their dreams of exploration, once vague and distant, now felt attainable, guided by the mysterious knowledge contained in the device. Late that night, the aliens studied the device in private, careful to protect its secrets while trying to understand its full purpose. The data suggested a complexity that far surpassed anything the crew had encountered before. There were layers of information encoded in symbols, images, and sounds, each layer revealing more about human history and the wider universe. It was a puzzle, a map, and a record all at once, and the aliens felt both awe and responsibility. As they worked, the crew began to realize the deeper truth. This colony was not just a collection of humans surviving in isolation. It was part of a larger story, a thread connecting civilizations, knowledge, and time itself. The humans had preserved what was essential, but the device suggested that their survival had been guided, that someone had ensured that knowledge would endure even in isolation. The aliens were witnessing a design that spanned centuries, a careful shaping of human understanding without interference from technology or domination. By dawn, the first rays of sunlight illuminated the village once again. The humans began their day, unaware of the magnitude of what had been discovered. The aliens prepared to share what they could, to guide the humans without revealing too much, knowing that the mystery itself was part of the colony's identity. There was caution in their approach. They did not want to overwhelm or frighten the humans, only to help them understand a small part of the truth. The day unfolded with a quiet intensity. Humans and aliens moved together, exploring the artifact, discussing its symbols, and trying to decipher the messages embedded within. Questions were asked, patterns were identified, and connections began to emerge. Slowly, a new understanding formed, a sense that the colony's past, present, and future were part of a larger design, a story that neither species could fully comprehend alone as evening approached. The aliens reflected on the events of the day. They had uncovered a secret that was both astonishing and humbling. This device had revealed a connection to a world the humans had never seen, a knowledge that spanned generations, and yet had been preserved with care. The colony was not merely lost, it was guided, protected, and waiting for a moment when its story could be understood. The humans, exhausted but inspired, returned to their homes. Fires glowed softly in the darkness, and the stars above twinkled as if in silent acknowledgement of the discovery. The aliens watched from a distance, feeling a mixture of wonder, responsibility, and awe. They had come to observe, but they had found something far more profound, a connection that transcended species, time, and understanding. That night, as the village slept under a canopy of stars, the aliens recorded their observations. They knew that the discovery of the device was only the beginning. Questions remained: who had created it, why it had been left, and how it had shaped the humans' knowledge and survival. These mysteries would need careful study, and the answers might challenge everything the crew thought they knew about life, history, and intelligence. Yet, despite the uncertainty, there was hope. The device had opened a door to understanding, a bridge between the isolated humans and the wider universe. The aliens realized that this lost human colony was not merely surviving, it was thriving in its own way, carrying forward knowledge, culture, and resilience that could change the way the universe understood humanity itself. As the night deepened, the aliens allowed themselves a rare moment of reflection. They had come to observe a lost colony, but they had discovered something far more profound, a living testament to the strength, intelligence, and spirit of humans. And somewhere in the quiet of the sleeping village, the first seeds of a new chapter in the colony's story were already beginning to grow. The day began quietly, with sunlight spilling across the village and warming the hills. The humans moved about their routines, tending to fields, repairing tools, and caring for children, unaware of the deep discussions happening just beyond their sight. The alien crew had gathered in a secluded clearing, a short distance from the village, and the mood among them was tense. The discovery of the mysterious device had left them with more questions than answers, but now a new concern pressed on them. What should they do next? The captain spoke first, their voice calm but serious. "We have learned much about this colony, about their history and resilience. But now we face a choice. Do we intervene, share our knowledge, guide them, or do we leave them to grow on their own?" The crew members shifted uneasily, each wrestling with the weight of the question. Some argued for intervention. "They have survived centuries in isolation, yes," one said, "but they are missing knowledge that could change their world. We could accelerate their understanding, give them tools to explore beyond this planet, maybe even connect them to the universe they were once part of." Others disagreed. "And if we interfere, we could destroy what they have built," another responded. "Their society is unique, balanced, and resilient. We might do more harm than good." The debate stretched for hours, with the aliens weighing the moral and practical implications of their choices. They considered the humans' intelligence, curiosity, and adaptability. They knew that these humans had preserved knowledge, culture, and community, without any outside help, and that this independence had shaped them into something extraordinary. But they also saw the potential, what the colony could become with guidance, with access to knowledge and technology beyond imagination. Meanwhile, the humans went about their lives, unaware of the internal debate among their visitors. Children laughed as they chased each other through fields, elders taught lessons by firelight, and families shared simple meals. The aliens watched silently, observing the human capacity for cooperation, empathy, and creativity. Every action, every small gesture, reinforced the delicate balance that had allowed this colony to thrive. Interfering too soon, too strongly, could disrupt that balance. As the sun climbed higher, one of the crew suggested a cautious approach. "Perhaps we can guide them subtly," they said. "We do not give them tools or knowledge directly. Instead, we plant ideas, leave clues, let them discover for themselves. That way, they retain their independence while still benefiting from the wisdom we can offer." The others nodded thoughtfully. It was a compromise, a way to influence without controlling, to help without dominating. The aliens decided to implement their plan carefully. Small signals were embedded into the device, hints and patterns that could be understood over time. Subtle lessons were encoded in ways the humans might gradually uncover methods to improve agriculture, observations about the stars, and ways to document knowledge for future generations. It was a slow, gentle nudge, designed to spark curiosity rather than impose change. Later in the afternoon, the crew returned to the village, observing the humans as they gathered for a communal activity. It was a ritual that celebrated the harvest, a time when the community worked together, shared stories, and reflected on the land's abundance. The aliens watched closely, noting the ways humans communicated, collaborated, and cared for each other. Their focus was not just on survival, it was on understanding, on connection, on the subtle wisdom that had been passed down through generations. One alien approached a small group of children who were learning to carve symbols into wood. The children looked up, startled at first, but the alien smiled gently, kneeling to their level. Using gestures and the translator, they showed a simple pattern, a way to mark stories and lessons. The children mimicked the shapes, laughing and learning without realizing the depth of the knowledge being shared. The alien felt a sense of satisfaction. Small, careful guidance could have a lasting impact, planting seeds that might grow over years and generations. Meanwhile, the elders noticed something unusual about the artifact. Subtle changes had occurred since the aliens had interacted with it. Symbols shifted slightly, new patterns emerged, almost as if the device was responding to attention, to curiosity, to the energy of the humans around it. The elders gathered the community, sharing their observations. A quiet excitement spread through the village, a sense that something greater than themselves was at work. The aliens watched from a distance, realizing that the humans' natural curiosity and intelligence were their greatest strengths. They needed only gentle encouragement to explore, question, and understand. The crew began to design small, indirect lessons, embedding hints into natural events and everyday experiences. Stars were used as guides, subtle patterns were highlighted in farming methods, and stories were shaped to suggest possibilities without dictating them. Each step was deliberate, ensuring that the humans retained control over their own discoveries. As evening fell, the village gathered around fires, sharing stories and songs. The aliens joined at a respectful distance, observing, listening, and learning. The humans spoke of dreams, questions, and mysteries that had always puzzled them, the origins of their ancestors, the strange patterns in the sky, and the stories that did not have clear explanations. The crew recognized these as opportunities to guide without revealing, to inspire without imposing. Every story shared could carry a lesson, every song could spark a question, every ritual could hint at greater truths. Night descended. and the stars appeared in brilliance that the humans had always admired, but not fully understood. The aliens considered their role in this delicate ecosystem of life, knowledge, and curiosity. Intervention was tempting, the temptation to share technology or accelerate understanding, but it carried risk. Change imposed too quickly could fracture the social bonds, disrupt the culture, or diminish the humans' resilience. They had to remain patient, allowing the colony to grow naturally while providing subtle guidance that respected their autonomy. The crew reflected on the day's events. They realized that their own understanding of intelligence and civilization had shifted. These humans, isolated and technologically simple, had achieved something extraordinary, a society built on observation, empathy, and resilience. They had survived hardship, preserved knowledge, and maintained culture without external help. The aliens began to see that true intelligence was not only about technology or tools, it was also about connection, wisdom, and the ability to adapt while staying true to one's own identity. Back in the village, the humans noticed small changes. Patterns in the device became easier to interpret. A subtle alignment of stars highlighted directions for planting crops. New insights emerged from old stories, allowing the community to solve problems they had long struggled with. They felt progress, but it came naturally, without force or domination. They began to sense a presence guiding them, not controlling them, but nudging them toward discoveries they were ready to make by dawn the next day. The aliens gathered once more on the hill overlooking the village. The stars faded, replaced by the warm light of the sun. The humans were already awake, moving through their routines, carrying lessons learned the day before into their work. The aliens felt a quiet pride not in themselves, but in the humans. They were witnessing growth, curiosity, and adaptation in real time, guided only by subtle influence and careful observation. The crew knew that their role was not finished. There were still mysteries to uncover, lessons to plant, and discoveries to inspire. The humans' journey was just beginning, and every decision the aliens made would ripple across generations. Patience, subtlety, and respect were essential. They were not masters of this colony. They were witnesses, guides, and protectors of potential as the sun rose higher, casting its golden glow over fields and homes. The aliens reflected on the delicate balance of their actions. Intervention without thought could destroy what had been built over centuries. Guidance without understanding could confuse or mislead. They needed to remain observant, adaptive, and empathetic, ensuring that the humans could continue to grow, learn, and thrive on their own terms. By nightfall, the humans gathered once again around the central fire, sharing stories, songs, and reflections. The subtle guidance from the aliens had already begun to shape new questions, new insights, and new connections. The colony was evolving, not through technology or force, but through curiosity, collaboration, and careful understanding. As the stars twinkled overhead, the aliens allowed themselves a rare moment of reflection. They had come seeking knowledge about a lost human colony, but they had found something more profound, a living lesson in resilience, empathy, and intelligence. They had discovered that growth could be nurtured without domination, that curiosity could be sparked without coercion, and that guidance could be gentle yet powerful. The humans, unaware of the full extent of the aliens' work, continued their rituals, storytelling, and daily routines. But something had changed. Subtle, natural, and inspiring, the presence of the aliens and the hints they had left were beginning to shape the future. The colony's story was no longer just about survival. It was about discovery, potential, and the connection between generations, between species, and between curiosity. An understanding. And somewhere deep in the quiet of the night, the aliens knew that the most important lesson was already clear. Real progress, Real growth and real understanding came not from imposing knowledge, but from nurturing curiosity, guiding gently, and allowing the humans to find their own path. The journey of this lost human colony was far from over, and the future held mysteries and discoveries that would challenge, inspire, and transform both the humans and the aliens who had come to witness their story. The sun rose slowly over the hills, bathing the village in a warm, golden light. Birds sang softly, and the breeze carried the scent of earth and grass across the fields. The humans had already begun their day, moving through familiar routines with quiet energy, some tending crops, others caring for children, and a few checking on the small streams that provided water for the village. There was a sense of calm, yet an undercurrent of curiosity in their eyes. The mysterious device and the recent subtle guidance from the alien visitors had stirred questions in their minds that had been dormant for generations. The alien crew gathered in their temporary quarters at the edge of the village, overlooking the bustling life below. Today, they would prepare to leave, their mission shifting from direct observation to reflection and careful monitoring from a distance. But leaving was not simple. Over the past days, they had grown attached to the humans. They had watched their resilience, intelligence, and creativity. They had witnessed moments of joy, sorrow, and discovery that revealed the depth of humanity in ways no record or device could capture. The captain spoke softly, their voice thoughtful. "We came seeking knowledge about a lost human colony," they said. "But we leave with something far greater. We have seen a species that has survived, grown, and preserved its essence without outside interference. We have been witnesses to something extraordinary." The crew nodded, each feeling the weight of their experiences. Before departing, the aliens decided to leave one final gift. Not a device, not instructions, but subtle guidance embedded in the environment itself. Small markers were placed near fertile fields, aligned stones to track celestial patterns, and hints were left in the carvings that documented the colony's history. These were not answers, not shortcuts, but gentle nudges to encourage curiosity, problem-solving, and exploration over the generations. The crew wanted the humans to continue discovering on their own, retaining independence and creativity while having tools to inspire growth. The humans, busy with their daily routines, noticed small anomalies. A rock pattern that had never been aligned in a certain way now pointed to the stars. A series of carvings in the oldest building revealed a sequence that suddenly made sense. Curiosity sparked across the village, but it was subtle, natural, and exciting. It felt like part of the world itself was encouraging them to explore, to learn, to connect. No one understood fully why, but everyone sensed that something important had shifted. The day unfolded slowly, filled with quiet moments of observation, cooperation, and reflection. Children played and learned from their surroundings. Elders shared wisdom, and adults discovered new ways to improve their daily lives. The alien presence, though now distant, had already left a lasting mark. The colony's pace remained natural, its life balanced, but a spark of possibility had been ignited. The humans were beginning to imagine what they could do beyond the hills, beyond the rivers, and perhaps even beyond their planet dot in the afternoon. One of the alien crew members revisited the small hill overlooking the village. They observed how humans moved through their routines, noting the patterns of work, rest, and play. There was harmony in the way people collaborated, respected the land, and taught the young. There was also a spark of curiosity, small but persistent, in the eyes of those who had discovered new patterns in carvings and symbols. The alien realized that guidance was most effective when it allowed independence, when it encouraged discovery rather than imposing it as evening approached. The humans gathered around the central fire for a communal ritual. Songs were sung, stories shared, and lessons passed down. The elders recounted tales of ancestors, of journeys, hardships, and moments of triumph. The humans noticed new connections in the stories, hints embedded in the carvings, and subtle signs that suggested a larger world beyond their own. It was an awakening, gentle yet profound, and it filled the village with a sense of wonder and anticipation. The alien crew watched quietly from a distance, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. They had witnessed the humans' resilience, creativity, and emotional depth. They had seen survival in its purest form, shaped not by machines or technology, but by observation, collaboration, and human spirit. And now, they had left the colony with the tools to continue growing, learning, and discovering on their own. Night fell, and the stars appeared brighter than ever, reflecting in the rivers and streams of the village. The humans looked up, sensing patterns, questions, and possibilities that had never occurred to them before. They began to discuss what they had observed, what they had learned, and what mysteries remained. Curiosity was alive in their hearts, and with it came a sense of hope and determination. They were no longer just survivors. They were explorers in their own right, connected to a world beyond the hills, waiting to be discovered. The aliens, finally preparing to depart, reflected on their journey. They had come to observe a lost colony, to study its survival and culture, and perhaps to understand how humans evolved in isolation. But they were leaving with far more. They had witnessed a living story of resilience, adaptation, and intelligence. They had learned that true knowledge is not just in technology or records, but in the way humans connect, teach, and care for each other. And they had understood that the greatest guidance is sometimes the gentlest, the smallest spark that leads to self-discovery. Before taking off, the crew looked back at the village one last time. Fires glowed softly in homes, laughter echoed in the night, and humans moved through their routines, unaware of the vastness of the universe waiting beyond their skies. The aliens felt a deep sense of connection, a recognition that even in silence and distance, relationships could form, and lessons could be shared. As the vessel ascended, moving away from the planet, the aliens observed the humans from space. The patterns of fields, homes, and rivers formed a tapestry of life that was balanced, resilient, and alive. They could see the subtle markers they had left, and they knew that in time, these clues would guide new discoveries. The humans would not be rushed, forced, or overwhelmed. They would grow naturally, guided by curiosity and the desire to explore. The journey home was quiet. The crew reflected on everything they had learned and witnessed. They had seen the raw strength of humans, the beauty of a society built on collaboration, and the depth of wisdom preserved without technology. They had uncovered mysteries, discovered resilience, and recognized that guidance and influence could be as gentle as the wind. The experience had changed them, leaving an imprint that would last far longer than any data they could carry. Days turned into nights, and the colony continued its quiet evolution. Humans discovered patterns, solved problems, and taught the next generation the lessons embedded in the carvings, stories, and subtle signals left by their visitors. Curiosity grew, leading to innovations in farming, construction, and observation of the stars. The device, once mysterious, became a tool for understanding, sparking questions and inspiring discovery without dictating answers. The humans had begun a new chapter in their history, one filled with exploration, imagination, and the pursuit of knowledge. The aliens, now far from the planet, monitored from a distance, taking comfort in the knowledge that they had left the humans to grow on their own terms. They knew that the colony would continue to thrive, learn, and evolve naturally. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a society that had survived in isolation, preserved its knowledge, and grown through patience, curiosity, and connection. In the quiet of the night, far from the village, the aliens reflected on the lessons of their journey. They had learned that true intelligence and understanding were not just measured by tools or technology, but by creativity, empathy, and resilience. They had seen a species that thrived in harmony with its environment and with each other, a society that valued observation, memory, and connection over speed, power, or domination. As the stars filled the sky, the aliens felt a sense of hope. The humans below, unaware of the full extent of their guidance, were already shaping their future. They had been inspired, encouraged, and subtly guided, and the seeds of curiosity, creativity, and understanding were growing strong. The lost human colony was no longer just surviving, it was thriving, evolving, and ready to take the next steps in its story. And somewhere in the quiet of the sleeping village, under the glow of distant stars, life continued. Fires burned softly, rivers flowed, and humans dreamed dreams that had been waiting for generations to be awakened. The aliens departed, leaving behind more than hints and markers. They left a legacy of trust, curiosity, and possibility. The colony was no longer lost. It was alive, learning, and connected to a story that stretched far beyond the hills, rivers, and forests of their home. As the vessel disappeared into the vastness of space, the aliens carried with them a profo.